Welcome to the Productive Life Podcast with Megan Minns. In this episode, I am answering your questions. So I actually put out some questions on my Instagram stories, and I'm going to be answering those in today's episode. So it's a mix of personal, business, and a lot of random stuff in between. So let's dig in. Welcome to the Productive Life Podcast hosted by me, Megan Minns. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to be more productive in their business and their personal life. Because as a business owner, your business and personal life are connected, and we can't talk about one without talking about the other. Each week, you'll learn about productivity, organization, personal development, self-care, business strategies, and more. And now, let's get started. I'm recording this week's episode from my home office in Houston, and it's actually raining right now, so it's kind of my ideal mood. I love when it rains, but I'm just hoping we don't hear any thunder or any distracting storm-related noises. But I'm really excited to answer your questions today. So I actually asked on my Instagram stories yesterday if anyone had any questions. It could be personal, business, health and wellness, anything that you guys were curious about. And I got a few questions, so we're just going to answer those now. And I'm excited to potentially do more episodes like this in the future. So be sure to follow me on Instagram. Especially watch my Instagram stories because I will often ask what questions you have about a specific topic or even a general Q&A like this. You can find me on Instagram at Megan_Minns. Okay, so let's dig into some of these questions. So one of the questions I got was, what are daily movements and how is it different from your workouts? So this question came because the same day I asked for the Q&A, I actually shared my morning routine. And one thing I've added into my morning routine lately is something I call daily movements. I actually got this idea from two different places. So my coach, Lexi D'Angelo, has talked about how she moves her body. I think she does squats and I forget what else she does, but she does some movements in the morning that aren't necessarily her workout, but to get her heart rate up, to get her energy up, and to move her body first thing. And I really liked that idea, but I didn't actually start implementing something similar until I decided to start doing the 4-Hour Body program, which I've done before. It's Tim Ferriss's program. I love it and have seen huge results. One thing I've never implemented though is his take on working out. And he's a big believer in doing the minimum effective dose. So doing only the amount of working out that you need to do to get the results and not overdoing it, which I really like that idea of, really resonates with how I like to do things. So I decided this time around to actually give it a shot. And he talks about daily movements as a few different exercises, mostly core related exercises and some stretching to do on a daily basis. And then 3 times a week, doing a kettlebell workout with a few other exercises as well. So I've only been doing that for a couple weeks. So I'm really curious to see how this evolves for me over time. Do I keep doing it every day? Do I do the same movements? Do I add in my own? Do I change it up? But for now, it's been really nice. So to me, the daily movements aren't a part of the workout. I do the workout 3 times a week, and I have a pretty good rhythm of working out either 3 to 5 times a week, depending on what I'm doing. So to me, that's separate. So even if I wasn't doing his workout program, I really like implementing the daily movements. And not only does it help you just get the blood pumping in the morning, but I really feel like it helps build muscle. I really appreciate that it is core related exercises. I also really like the stretching component, but honestly, I like to move my body in the morning. Sometimes, however, I don't always want to go work out in the morning. Sometimes I would prefer to do that later in the day. So daily movements are just 5. I think I have 5 true daily movements that I do. So certain crunches, certain core exercises, certain planks, and certain stretching movements that I just do first thing in the morning when I wake up, and I really like it. So that's been a nice thing. So if you are someone who maybe doesn't work out every day, or you don't want to work out in the morning, but you really would benefit from just that physical movement in the morning, maybe something like a few daily movements in the morning would help you kind of achieve what you're looking for without feeling like you have to do the full workout in the morning first thing. The next question I got was, is your husband as organized as you? And if not, how do you deal with it? I think this is a very funny question. And I kind of wish I had my husband here to answer it because I am probably not as organized as you think I am. I love to organize. I really get a deep amount of satisfaction from taking on a project like cleaning the closet and organizing things. And I absolutely have a certain peace when everything has its home. And that's my dream. And I would say I'm organized in business, but my personal life, my home at least, isn't very organized. It's not as organized as I would like it to be. Often home projects for me are things that don't happen consistently. And so as I'm recording this in my office, I no joke have like a pile of stuff in the corner that's like a mixed bag of things to return, things to put in the recycling bin, things that were on my bookshelf that when I recorded a video, I just put on the ground and have left there for a few days. So my husband is actually a lot more of a clean freak than I am. I have no issue with the dishes piling up, laundry piling up. Do I enjoy it? No. I feel like when those things are piling up, it's a sign for me that maybe I might be pushing the work thing a little too hard. So to me, that's like an indicator that I need to chill out usually. But like the honest truth is that it doesn't bother me. Like it really doesn't bother me to have stuff everywhere. I don't like it. If people are going to come over, I clean it up really quick. I'm not really happy with it, but it really doesn't bother me. I would often prioritize something like reading a book or sleeping or napping over cleaning. My husband, however, despises when dishes pile up, which is often a point of conversation for us. And he really likes things to be neat and tidy. It bothers him a lot more than me. So it's something we are working on and I am working on. That's why if you've heard me or seen my morning and evening routines, I've listed those out sometimes on Instagram stories. I think I've talked about them here on the podcast as well. I often have a lot of cleaning elements in my routines because if it's not something that I have structure around, I just won't do it. So when I make a commitment that before I go to bed, I'm going to like load the dishwasher and run it, then that is truly because it's not in my nature. It's something I would easily just leave and not do at all. So I tend to have to incorporate cleaning into my rhythm or my routine in order to do it consistently. So it's really like him dealing with me more than anything else. We value organization and we would prefer it, but we're also pretty busy and often let home organization fall to the bottom of the priority list when we have other things going on. So I don't know if that's what you were expecting or not, but that's me. The next question is, what human design type are you? And gosh, I think I've taken this test before. I don't really fully know much about human design type. I don't feel like I understand it very well. So even if I could tell you what my type is, I don't feel like I know enough about it to really incorporate it into my life and my personal development. Okay, yeah, I actually did just look it up. I did have it. So I am a generator. I have no idea what that means. I'm actually a lot more familiar with some other personality profiles. So as an Enneagram, I am a 9 wing 1, which I feel like very accurately describes me and my fears and my strengths and weaknesses and where I go when I'm really good and where I go when I'm stressed out. That feels like all very, very accurate and relevant for me. And I love learning more about the Enneagram. I've also taken the Kolbe test before. And when I took that a few years ago, I was in 8723. So the main thing that I remember from the Kolbe and that helped me then was one of those numbers reflects if you are a quick start or not. So if you take action very, very quickly, or if you require a lot of time and research before you feel comfortable making a decision. And I actually tested I don't know if it's low or high, but I am tested as like not the quick start. I tested as the type of person who needs so much time, has to know everything before they make a decision. And I actually don't know much about the Kolbe as far as if it changes or not, because I feel like if I took it now, I might actually test as a quick start because I've learned through my mindset work that a lot of the reasons I took so long to make decisions was actually based in like fear of failure and not so much that I actually needed that in order to make a decision. So very curious if that is something that can change or not. But that was what my Kolbe score was when I took it a few years ago. And not that y'all asked, but I'll just keep telling you some of my other personality profiles that I know since like this one question came up. So I am a Pisces sign. So I know this isn't necessarily a personality test, but my sun, moon, and rising sign. So I'm a Pisces sun sign. I am a Sagittarius moon sign, and I am a Virgo rising. And I guess it's Virgo season when I'm recording this, so maybe I should look into that. But again, not an expert there. Find it very fascinating. One of my favorite apps is called Sanctuary. And it's really cool to learn more about your sun, moon, and rising signs and get your horoscope. And I just think all that stuff is kind of like a fun, playful thing for me. So that is my sun, moon, and rising. And then as far as personality tests go, my favorite has always been the Myers-Briggs. Like I love the Myers-Briggs. And I now feel less certain about my Myers-Briggs personality profile. For years and years, I tested as an ESFJ. And like that felt very real to me. But as I've been doing a lot of mindset work this year, it feels less true to me and my nature, because I can look back at that and honestly see that I was trying to fit a role I thought I had to play in the world. Like the ESFJ is like great at being organized and a great planner and like a really great support person. And if you are familiar with any of the like entrepreneurial, like the traction book terms of like having a visionary and an integrator, and ESFJ is like a really good integrator. And that was the role I played for many years in my life of like supporting other entrepreneurs and CEOs and visionaries. And honestly, I feel like my identity for so many years was tied up in like who I thought I had to be in the world, that I genuinely do think I showed up in the world as an ESFJ, and that's like who I was. I'm not saying that I'm not that way anymore. I don't know, but I have taken the personality test again several times in the past year, and I get like different results every time. I try to self-diagnose and I get different results. I feel like I need a refresher on like the state of mind you're supposed to answer these questions from, because I don't know. I just like feel like every time I hear someone else's interpretation of what the letters mean, I cling to different things about my nature. And, you know, I am in this big journey. Y'all know you've listened to my journey with intuition. You've heard my personal updates. Like y'all have been along the ride with me. And so part of me can't tell if like maybe the ESFJ is really my core self and I'm just like evolving, or I honestly think that ESFJ part of me might have been kind of not a lie, but like a mask that felt so real. It was like the layers of identity I built up over time of trying to be what other people wanted from me. But as you heard when I answered the first question, like I'm really not that organized of a person. I keep business stuff pretty organized, but I wouldn't say that I'm like the most organized person in the world by any means. So those are all the different personality types. So if you know anything about any of these personality types and would like to share any interesting insights with me, feel free to DM me on Instagram. That would be a fun way for us to chat about personality profiles a little bit more. The next question I got was, what are your top tips for conquering overwhelm? Oh, this is a biggie. Like, I feel like this could be its own podcast episode, but I think it depends really on like where the overwhelm is coming from. But one thing I heard lately or recently from James Wedmore actually was the idea that you can't experience overwhelm unless you are growing and learning. And so anytime you're feeling overwhelmed, you can kind of remind yourself that like, this is a good thing because that means I'm learning and growing. And we all want to learn and grow, right? So you can kind of reframe the overwhelm as something that's not bad and doesn't mean anything bad. It actually means something good. But logistically, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, because sometimes feeling so overwhelmed can really lead to a lot of confusion and procrastination and avoidance and self-sabotage. So I don't want you to like feel overwhelmed constantly. But if that reframe doesn't help and you're still feeling really overwhelmed, I often will take a break. Honestly, like I'll just stop doing whatever is causing me the overwhelm. And I don't mean a permanent break. I mean like it might be a 5-minute break or a 30-minute break, or I might try to do something else. Or I will do a journaling session and try to like figure out the root cause of the overwhelm, like what's really causing this feeling. Because sometimes we don't really know what's causing the overwhelm. And I also will deprioritize. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed and the root cause is because I just have a really big to-do list, or I have a lot on my plate, or I'm feeling a lot of responsibility, I'm feeling short on time, one thing that I will do is reprioritize my tasks. So that would be something that is really helpful, is to say, okay, I'm not going to get these 10 things done today, but I'm going to get these 2 things done. And like those other 8 things, we're just going to like do them later. Like we're going to worry about those tomorrow. We'll figure out when they're getting done, but like they're just not happening today, or someone else on the team is going to do them, or some combination. So that's a really big logistical, practical thing, that when the overwhelm is there and it's because you just genuinely have too much on your plate for that day, I remove as much from that plate as humanly possible. And those things combined all really help me deal with overwhelm. I do think if you're feeling overwhelmed on a regular basis, it's a bigger conversation to have and something that I like to help my clients with, both one-on-one and intuitive execution, but it is a bigger topic. So if you guys are listening and you would like to talk more about overwhelm, let me know like what specific questions you have or an example of why you are feeling overwhelmed, what the situation is, and maybe I can do another episode about overwhelm specifically. Okay, the next question is, would you want to live anywhere other than Texas? And oh my gosh, I love Texas. I'm a cliche lover of Texas, your classic Texan. And I love living in Houston. There's so many things that I love here. Like I could go on a whole rant about why I love Houston, but I would love to live in other places. And that's just because I moved so much. I moved 28 or 29 times. And I'm 29 years old, and that's like houses. And that is across quite a few different states as well and cities. And I really like change. And especially since I can work from anywhere and we don't have children, it feels really tempting to like go live in other places. Like, let's go live in California for a year. Let's go live in New York City. Let's go live anywhere. And I would love to experience that. Logistically, my husband's job is like very dependent on relationships and like his network here in Houston. So we are probably like gonna be in Houston for the rest of our lives. Even thinking about Dallas feels like it probably won't happen. So we have a ton of friends here. We have a lot of family here. We love it here. But since I can work from anywhere and I love change, I definitely get like enticed and tempted to move. But I think we like that gets addressed anytime we travel. That urge really goes away. And I love our network here. I think it would be really hard for me personally I should change that language, but I'm not experiencing this right now, so it's fine. But I think it would be a unique challenge for me to move somewhere brand new and have to build a whole new support system. I really love our friends and my support system here that encourage me and like support my business and listen to these episodes, even though they don't even have their own business. And just that is really valuable to me. And I really appreciate that I'm not having to build that from scratch and that it exists already. So would love to live in other states. And like I said, I think California and New York often tempt me more than anything else, but maybe Colorado. But I definitely wouldn't want to live somewhere permanently cold. I'm definitely a person who loves the warm weather now. So, but I could deal with like fall all year long. That would be my dream. Okay, the next question is, how did you develop the curriculum for intuitive execution? How did you decide what to teach, how in-depth to go, etc.? It's a great question. I would say that it really started to come together for me in my one-on-one coaching. And that's honestly one of the reasons I wanted to start doing one-on-one coaching is I really wanted to get a connection with how I help people. What is my unique system? Like I have my own, but how does the system apply to other businesses? What terminology makes sense and doesn't make sense? What limitations do and don't make sense? Like just seeing it in other people's lives and businesses and what really makes the impact and what doesn't make the impact and where the struggle is. And, I would never have known what this would look like in other businesses had I not done it one-on-one in coaching. So that really helped me. And when I went to create the curriculum for intuitive execution, I already knew the pieces that needed to be addressed. I would say that I got caught up in a little bit of an old pattern of overanalyzing and trying to get it perfect in the most recent session of intuitive execution because I was re-recording some of the videos and I definitely got a little caught up in like, oh, is this in the right order? Should I add this? Should I remove this? Should I change this? And I often find that the best thing you can do is trust your gut and be open to feedback. So one of the reasons why I'm so focused on serving and developing and nurturing and growing intuitive execution is like it's the program I am focused on right now and for the foreseeable future. And so I'm really in a state where I'm open to feedback and I want that feedback. So I want people to go through the program and say this did make sense, this didn't make sense, or this was my unique struggle that I had. And we coach them through that on our coaching calls. So they end up getting the result they want, but I get to continue to learn what this system looks like in different businesses. But it really started with my one-on-one coaching. It started with what What have I implemented in my life and business that's made a difference? How can I help other people implement it and develop my system that applies to other people? And then doing the pilot session of intuitive execution, I learned a ton. Teaching it live, getting their questions live, that helped me really refine it. And then now I'm doing the next session and I'm learning more. So I'm always learning. I'm always tweaking it. I'm always trying to improve it. One of my main focuses on a daily basis is to make intuitive execution the best program in the world. So I wouldn't say that it's even like done. Like the curriculum will probably continue to evolve and improve and both simplify and tweak as needed over the life of the program. I don't know if that really answered your question as far as like that definitely addressed the what to teach part. How in depth to go truly was how in depth do you need to go to get the result. So certain areas we have to go a lot deeper, and other areas we don't have to. So that was really just based on my experience and also just trusting myself to know what the client needs in order to get results. Okay, I got a question about my health goals. So what are your current health goals? So this is a great question. I am actually currently focused on my body fat percentage just because I didn't want to set a goal personally that was attached to like the weight number on the scale. I am tracking that as a metric to compare, but I have lost weight before and lost all muscle, and I don't want to do that again. I've also lost weight and gained muscle, and I really like that better. I would like to be lean, but toned. If you've listened to my personal update podcast back earlier, I can't remember which episode it was one of the first 10, I think. I don't remember. I shared that we had a personal, I don't want to trigger people. We had a personal issue back in January that really affected me. It really triggered my emotional eating, which went through the roof. And I gained a lot of weight in a very short amount of time. And I don't think there's like, you have to be skinny to be successful or be happy. Like, I'm not unhappy in my body, but I gained an unhealthy amount of weight in a short period of time. Like, unbiasedly, it was a lot of weight in a short amount of time. And I spent most of this year, it's August, so I'm recording this end of August, spent a lot of this year doing the emotional recovery, doing a ton of mindset work and development, quitting my job, starting my business. And I've been growing and evolving in so many incredible ways, but my health was honestly getting neglected. I would work out, but my eating habits were inconsistent. I would eat well for a week or two and then eat bad for a week or two. I'd eat bad for a couple of days in a row. I would fall back into the pattern of emotional eating. It was definitely not getting my attention. I would say like the business was getting my attention and my personal health wasn't getting my attention. And I was trying to eat intuitively, but it made it really easy for me to eat emotionally and eat based on just like trying to get like a hit of happiness, like drugs almost. So I realized that that's what was happening. Honestly, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I knew I needed to make a change, but even I gained that really large amount of weight in like a month or two at the beginning of the year. And I hadn't really been weighing myself, and I knew I was gaining more weight just based on the way I was feeling and my clothes were fitting, and I was feeling bloated all day, every day. And didn't feel very strong physically either. And so I knew I was going to make a change. And I actually decided to do 4-Hour Body, which I mentioned earlier, which is Tim Ferriss's program. It is a program. There are rules and restrictions, and I know not everyone wants to eat that way. I have found for me that like having those decisions made in advance makes my life so much easier. Like, not having to figure out how to eat healthy, but just like having parameters for me is really helpful, especially when I am making intentional effort. I don't know that I'll be on 4-Hour Body for my whole life by any means, but I am in a place where I do need to lose weight. I have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is not all about ovarian cysts as it sounds, but it is a lot about hormonal imbalance, and the symptoms are worsened by weight gain. And so by losing weight, not only will I feel more confident, I will also get like true medical benefits of losing weight. My symptoms will not be as bad, which is something I want. So there's real reasons for me to lose weight, not just superficial, which I think really helps me have like a real cause and a why besides just like looking good, which to me is just not very motivational. All that being said, so I'm doing 4-Hour Body. I actually did this back in 2016 before we got married and loved it. You eat really strict for 6 days, and then you have a full-blown like eat bad, eat anything you ever want the seventh day. And like that really helps me because I don't feel like I can never eat these things again. I just have to wait a couple of days. That strategy works well for me. I can do that. I can do a delayed gratification when it's a couple days away. So it's been working really well. So my goal is a body fat percentage. I have been like before our wedding, I think I was like 19 or 18% body fat. Currently, I'm like 27. When I started the diet, I was like 30% body fat. And I was about to like enter a whole new weight range I'd never been in my whole life. So the scale was just, the trajectory was going the wrong direction, especially with all the reasons why I should be losing weight medically. So that's why I decided to do the program. So my health goal is to hit a 20, I think ideally like my annual goal would be to be back at that 20% body fat. I really love building muscle. I love lifting weights. I like getting strong. I would like to be there. So I almost don't care what the number is. If my body composition is like, 20% muscle, that would be great. Or 22. I'm like anywhere in that range would be great. So that is what I'm working towards. So that's my health goal right now. I just got like very honest with you guys. So thanks for listening. And, I'm really glad I have this space where I can be so vulnerable and honest. And if you're going through anything similar, whether it's PCOS or weight gain or emotional eating, I get it. I haven't mastered it. Like I haven't solved the problem of emotional eating. I don't know that gets solved, but for me, having these like decisions made that like I won't eat, like I just don't eat white carbs during the week. Like I just don't. It's just like, okay, well, I won't. That's easy. And of course, with like holidays and things, like we make exceptions here and there, but it's radically different than how I was living my life on a day-to-day basis. So for now, that is what I'm doing. And that is my goal. And we will see. I like to keep things flexible. So if I'm not enjoying this, if it's not fueling me, if it's not giving me energy, I will change gears. But right now, as of the time of this recording, I'm in the second week of it. I'm enjoying it. It's felt really easy and fun and easy to maintain. And it's really helped me put food back as like a source of fuel instead of like a way to get happiness. So that's been really positive for me. Okay. One of the questions I got was recommendations to batch and schedule for jobs if you don't have control over your schedule. So I obviously don't know your specific situation of what your job is, what amount of control you do have, and even what kind of work you're batching. If you're batching for a side hustle or if you're batching for the work within your full-time job. I have been a full-time employee. I was a full-time HR associate, a full-time recruiter. I did start building my business on the side. I have done that whole thing. So I do think that depending on your situation, everyone's going to have varying degrees of control. Some people genuinely won't have any control. And if that is you, then again, kind of understanding the context that you want to batch is a little hard for me to answer, but I will make some assumptions. So I'm going to assume the person asking this question has a corporate type of full-time job. So maybe they like sit at a desk and do some work. And I'm going to also assume that they are, let me see, recommendations to batch and schedule for jobs. Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to assume they're talking about their full-time job. So when I worked in corporate, like not even about side hustling, I did use strategies of schedule, like intentionality with my schedule and batching in whatever degree I could. So I always made sure that I had a morning routine before I even went to work. That helped me. But when I was at work, I did try to put some loose parameters around my schedule. Now I had bosses and people who could break the rules, but I had my own boundaries for what I could control. So especially as a recruiter, I was doing a lot of calls. I was doing a lot of phone screens, and there's a lot of manual scheduling of like people's schedules. And we never used things like Calendly, which I don't know why. Hopefully recruiters in the world are using tools like Calendly now to make it easier, but we never did. And I didn't implement that. So we were like emailing back and forth availability, which meant, that was difficult. So what I did do though, is I and my recruiting coordinator, like we did control what hours we presented as options. So I still looked at my schedule and I said, okay, I would like to get my project-based work done in the morning. So I don't want to have any like recruiting calls until like 10 a.m. That'll give me like 2 hours in the morning to ideally do my own work. And then I'm open for calls between like 10 and 11:30, and then like 1:30 and 3. And then the end of the day, I could do my own thing. So kind of using the same principles that I teach in your ideal schedule, you can still do that within your full-time job. So even if you can't always control how they work, like there are things you probably can control. And are you ever in that situation where you can propose the time and at least make the effort of like making the initial proposal fit your ideal schedule? And, if you have to compromise, then you can. I also we had certain days where we had team meetings. And so I built that all into my ideal schedule. So I would say step one, even when you have a full-time job, I still had an ideal schedule for work and different blocks of time I wanted to be working on different things. So like I said, these were my ideal times where I was on calls. These were my ideal times where I was working on projects. But of course, if we had a candidate in the office and I had a block to work on a project, well, that's going to change because I need to actually support that candidate who's in the office during then. So you're not going to be able to hold your boundaries perfectly, but you're going to have so much power on the days where you can, because there probably will be more days than you think where you actually do get to execute on this. And if you have a good relationship with your boss, you can always explain to your boss why you're doing this. Hey, I'm actually creating this schedule. I think it's going to really help me be more efficient, more focused, make sure I'm making faster progress on these projects we're working on without getting interrupted all the time. So here's what I'm doing. You can say, I'm really aiming to be focused at as focused as possible with as minimal interruptions as possible between, 8 and 10. And so if you need a meeting with me or we need to talk, if there's any way we could try to do that after 10, that would help me be the best employee for you, the best team member for you. But of course, if you need me for something urgent, let me know. I'm here. Obviously you're my boss, but this is my intention. And 9 times out of 10, I guarantee you, your boss is actually going to love that you're taking this initiative, you're taking control, you're showing a desire to improve and show up better and be a better employee. And I can't imagine a boss being mad at you for doing that. Then as far as batching goes, what can you do all at the same time? So again, as a recruiter and doing human resources, I batched all the time. I wouldn't always have it pre-planned, but I knew that if I needed to review applications, I wasn't going to do that all throughout the day. I would get nothing done. I was going to spend an hour here reviewing however many applications I could get through in an hour. And then that was it. And I'd go through the next round the next day. Or if I was onboarding 2 new team members, I would get all of their binders ready, get all their HR documents ready, and I would do that together. So there's probably things you're doing that you can actually still consolidate and batch more than you are now. So I know I made a few assumptions on where this question was coming from. Hopefully this helps those of you who are listening who have full-time jobs. And all of this applies whether you are a business owner, a full-time job, a side hustler. Even if you don't have a job, you can absolutely still make an ideal schedule and batch projects around the house and housework and running errands, things like that. So hopefully that helps. And I say batching a lot, block scheduling is also really closely tied to all of this. So having certain blocks of time on your calendar for when you do certain things. So hopefully that helps those of you who are hoping to start using your time a little bit better and more intentionally. Okay. And the last question I'll be answering is, how do you know you get an intuitive hit? So this is in response to an Instagram story I shared last night, as of the time I'm recording this, where I received an intuitive hit and was doing a journaling session in order to further process it and connect with my intuition. And this was an interesting question for me to answer. I actually got this as a DM as well, because I think that stuff like this, your intuition, everyone's different. I don't think that my experience with my intuition is necessarily going to be the same as yours with your inner self, your gut instincts, your intuition. So this is just going to be coming from my experience and my knowledge. All of this mindset work is something I'm so intrigued by and continuing to learn more and more about. But so I'm just going to be answering from my current understanding and knowledge and experience. So from my understanding, everyone gets intuitive hits a little differently. So that actually, when you think of your 5 senses, people can actually get intuitive hits in different mediums, in different ways. So someone might actually hear something from your intuition. Someone might see something. Someone might feel something. And someone might just have a knowing, you just know it. I have a combination of a kinesthetic response, a physical feeling, as well as just a knowing. It's just a suddenly it is a truth that I have. It is just the truth. And it's just like there, and it's like it wasn't there, and then the next minute, boom, it's there. And simultaneously I get goosebumps. And it just like happens. That is the most common way I receive intuitive hits. So then when I tap into something like journaling, I'm allowed to like go deeper and gain a better understanding of that by journaling and having like a little journaling session with myself to coach myself through that and gain a deeper understanding of what that means for me and what questions I have and any other thoughts I have around it. So for me, my intuitive hit is a sudden knowing, and I get the goosebumps. I also tend to get like a rush of energy. And it doesn't matter. Last night's happened at like 6 p.m. after a full day. And I normally would have been like winding down and pretty chill and tired. And I got this like surge of energy when this was happening. And I usually get compelled to talk about it. So some of my best friend, Mariah Cause, knows like when I've had an intuitive hit, she's getting like Voxers like crazy from me because I just like need to process it and I can't contain it. I have to share it with someone. It's very exciting. So what happened to me when this person asked this question is I actually was getting an intuitive hit that wasn't just this one statement. Like there was a statement that led it, but it was taking more time. Actually, as I'm recording this, like I'm still in the midst of processing the intuitive hit. So it's almost like this weird thing that like it began last night. I have this deep knowing that like change is coming based on this intuitive hit, but like I don't have the answers yet. I'm still figuring it out. I feel like I'm in the gray area. And I was actually talking to my friend Joyce of Modern Creative Pursuits today, and she said she's in her own like intuitive hit gray area right now as well, which was really funny. And so I just kind of like feel like I'm on the cusp of a breakthrough. Like I'm on one side of the door and on the other side is like all of the information and answers I need. It's really weird for me to describe stuff like this out loud, especially since not that long ago, I didn't even think I had an intuition. I didn't think intuition was like real. I thought it meant all this like crazy woo-woo stuff. Those were my stories I was telling myself about this. And I think everyone has their own interpretation of their intuition and like where it's coming from. But at your baseline, to me, your intuition is just coming from yourself. And like maybe you do believe that there are other forces out there helping. I have my own thoughts on that. But at the baseline, like regardless of your spiritual or religious beliefs, I believe everyone has an intuition and everyone is intuitive. And it's just your inner GPS, your inner self, who's really, really smart and who isn't bogged down by all of the subconscious crap that we all deal with as human beings that has just layered on us over our whole lives. And so I feel like our intuition at its very core is at least a part of us that has a little bit more wisdom and isn't bogged down by all of those fears and limiting beliefs. And it kind of knows why you're here. And so I don't know if that makes any sense. Like I said, I'm still getting really comfortable sharing my experience. And, I know that everyone's experience and interpretation may be different, but that is what an intuitive hit looks like for me, both when it's just like a really instant thing and also when there can be this like gray area. But I usually know most of the time it is like this moment of clarity or like these 10 minutes of this like intuitive hit where I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. Wow, 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 wow. And I'm like journaling and it's like, whoa, okay, cool. And then it's like done. It hasn't been very many times where I've had this like open-ended one that's happening. So I usually in this situation, there still will be a very clear closing. Usually we just have to create the opportunity to reconnect with our intuition to get that. And if I'm being honest, I haven't really sat down and journaled with an open-ended amount of time to do that today. So as soon as I'm done podcasting today, I'm absolutely going to sit down and journal. And I'm thinking there'll probably be some closure when I do that. And then the up level really begins. So we'll see. But those are the questions you guys sent in. Thank you so much for sending those in. This was really fun for me to just like answer a variety of questions like this. If you enjoyed this style of episode, please let me know by sending me a DM on Instagram or tagging me when you share this episode on your Instagram stories. And that way I know to do more Q&A episodes like this. And feel free to send me any questions you have at any time. But again, keep an eye out on Instagram stories in particular, because if I do another Q&A video, I will absolutely ask for your questions through Instagram stories. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your support, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to the Productive Life podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much to me if you would share your biggest takeaway on your Instagram stories or wherever you hang out. This helps me understand what you find the most helpful so that I can make more episodes and resources like this. If this podcast has helped you at all, please take just 1 minute to leave a review on iTunes so that we can help spread the word about the Productive Life podcast with others who may enjoy it. And last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to get the latest episodes sent to you directly. To learn how to work with me one-on-one or get instant access to freebies, trainings, templates, workshops, and more, be sure to go to meganmins.com right now. I'll see you in the next episode.